Ever feel like you're about to step on a career path, but you're not quite seeing the full picture?
Hmm.
Like you're missing a few puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
Well, today we're playing detective.
Oh,
We're diving deep into a single employee review to uncover what it's really like to work at a specific company.
how
In
interesting.
this case, KPMG.
Okay.
We're focusing on an entry-level data analyst position based in Belfast, Northern Ireland.
Oh,
Now, one thing that jumped out at me right away from this Glassdoor review was the mention of a salary,
okay.
£1,800 a month.
Okay.
What's your take on that? Is that normal for an entry-level data analyst in Belfast?
That's a great question. I mean, salary benchmarks, they can be all over the map, right? A lot depends on location, the size of the
Yeah.
company. So that's definitely something, for our listeners, if you're considering this kind of a career move, do your homework.
Right.
Do your research, see what the going rate is.
And it's funny because this reviewer, they sort of sarcastically called out some of the perks,
Yeah.
free flu shots, the view from the office. Like, are those really the things that matter most in a job?
It's all about perspective, right?
Yeah,
What matters to the employer might not be top of mind for the employee.
for sure.
And that's an important disconnect to be aware of.
Exactly. And speaking of things that should matter,
Mm.
this reviewer seemed really frustrated by the lack of upskilling opportunities.
Yeah.
They specifically mentioned no sandbox environments, which, and correct me if I'm wrong, those are basically like virtual spaces,
Right,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
Where you can test an experiment and you're not going to break anything.
Yeah. They're crucial for learning new skills, trying out new tools, especially in a field like data analysis. Things change so quickly.
Right. And it doesn't sound like KPMG is giving their data analysts much room to grow in that way.
Not if there's no sandbox environment to play around in. It's a bit of a red flag, If you're ambitious, you want to be constantly learning. Maybe look elsewhere.
That's a big deal. Now, another thing that caught my eye, they mentioned tech issues. Things like broken hardware, not enough IT support.
Yeah, that's sadly pretty common, especially in larger organizations.
Right.
But it can be a huge drag on morale and productivity.
Absolutely. And this next point, I found it really interesting. They claim that KPMG was kind of overselling their employees' skills, like presenting them as experts, even if they were still learning.
Ah, the old optics over substance problem.
Yes.
Happens all the time.
Yeah.
Pressure to close deals, so companies, they overpromise.
Right.
But that often leads to unhappy clients and burnt out employees.
And speaking of unhappy, this reviewer mentioned being benched, left without projects for long stretches, and then getting assigned to things that didn't match their skills or their goals at all.
It's a classic sign of poor management. Maybe resource allocation's a mess. Maybe there's a communication breakdown. Whatever it is, it doesn't bode well. It's no wonder they weren't happy there.
So big picture, what are our listeners, what do they need to take away from this deep dive?
One person's experience, it's a small lens, right?
Hmm.
But it can reveal a lot about a company's culture.
Right.
So use this review as a jumping off point. Ask the tough questions during your interviews, especially if it's a big firm like KPMG. How do they handle professional development? What's their process for assigning projects?
Yes.
Don't be afraid to dig deep because ultimately, this is your career.
Couldn't agree more. At the end of the day, these deep dives are here to arm you with information, with the right questions, so you can make the best decisions for your own career journey.
Absolutely.
So keep that in mind as you explore your options.